They seemed perfect, to everyone around them and to themselves, until an ordinary day turned into a sentence. One misplaced glance, one word soaked in regret, and a truth impossible to escape: betrayal. But the most devastating part wasn't in the stolen kisses or the lies told with the eyes. True betrayal was born from the advice of those closest, from poison that dripped slowly, over years. When trust collapses, the pain doesn't roar. It whispers behind your back. And sometimes the ones who stood closest are the first to push you over the edge. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. Miles's certainty in Gabrielle had always been absolute, flowing through his consciousness like an essential life force, as natural and vital as the rhythm of his heartbeat. Their relationship had become legendary among their circle, a seamless dance of two souls moving in perfect harmony through dinner parties and everyday routines, communicating through subtle expressions that spoke volumes without words. But everything changed during an ordinary afternoon as Miles relaxed in their shared sanctuary. Landon crashed through their entrance without warning, his face ghostly pale, avoiding direct eye contact while his usually steady voice trembled beneath the weight of terrible knowledge. Miles's first thought was of personal catastrophe, a death in the family or financial ruin, but reality proved far more devastating than his imagination could conjure. Pacing frantically across their carpet, Landon raked his fingers through disheveled hair, battling with words that seemed too cruel to speak aloud. He stopped abruptly, capturing Miles's attention with eyes that burned with remorse, torment, and the burden of unwanted truth. "Yesterday evening I saw Gabrielle at that tavern on Jefferson Street," he started. Miles's expression creased with bewilderment. "She wasn't alone." "Who was with her?" Miles questioned. "Another man. Their behavior was romantic." The word romantic settled over the room like toxic fog, stealing the oxygen from Miles's lungs. He sat frozen, examining Landon's features, praying for some explanation that would turn this nightmare into innocent misunderstanding. Landon continued his painful testimony. They were locked in passionate embraces, clearly lovers' behavior, not friendly gestures or polite greetings. What I witnessed was deeply intimate, the kind of connection reserved for romantic partners, not business associates or casual friends. I desperately wanted to rationalize what I saw, believe me, but I stood paralyzed on that pavement, searching for innocent explanations that simply weren't there. Every syllable struck Miles's mind like physical blows delivered in torturous succession. The world became blurry. His stomach churned as moisture gathered in his palms, and dizziness overwhelmed his equilibrium. He felt as though he was falling into an endless void that hadn't existed seconds before. Every fiber of his being demanded he dismiss Landon's testimony, insist on mistaken identity, yet Landon's expression carried the unmistakable weight of agonizing truth, the look of someone shattering a dear friend's reality with essential honesty. Miles gasped for air, struggling to maintain control while his mind raced desperately, seeking overlooked warning signals. Had Gabrielle's attitude shifted lately? Had she become emotionally unavailable or provided questionable explanations for her whereabouts? His recollection revealed nothing definitive. Ironically, she'd appeared especially affectionate recently, more considerate, more tender, exhibiting the behavior of someone overcompensating for secret transgressions. This recognition made Miles's nausea intensify. "Are you completely sure?" he whispered, his voice barely perceptible. Landon confirmed with a solemn movement of his head, grief evident in his gaze. "I wish reality was different, but what I observed was beyond dispute. If our roles were switched, you would show me identical honesty. Faith operates like building foundations, demanding years of patient development, yet susceptible to instant destruction from one critical weakness. Miles discovered himself immobilized by indecision. Should he immediately challenge Gabrielle? Should he allow himself tears, fury, or complete emotional collapse? One fact remained undeniable. He needed explanations, and only Gabrielle could deliver them genuinely. That evening, he performed flawlessly. They ate dinner while exchanging trivial conversation, and Gabrielle seemed entirely normal. Nevertheless, with his new hypervigilance now controlling his observations, Miles noticed previously ignored behaviors. Her secretive phone monitoring, artificial smiles during personal conversations, emotional withdrawal during significant discussions. Nothing suggested blatant deception, yet everything now seemed potentially duplicitous. Within this strained normalcy, Miles made a deliberate choice. Direct confrontation would be postponed. He desired tangible proof, complete certainty. He required personal verification so that when the critical moment came, he would understand the situation's full scope completely. Surveillance had never crossed his mind previously, but then again, infidelity had seemed equally inconceivable. Lying sleepless, staring into overhead darkness, Miles felt internal metamorphosis beginning, naivety expiring within him, replaced by calculating systematic resolve to expose his partner's complete betrayal. He couldn't anticipate the revelations that lay ahead. Morning arrived with suffocating chest constriction and mental haze, as if he'd spent hours escaping invisible fires. His coffee remained untouched, cooling while he stared blankly ahead, overwhelmed by approaching decisions. Betrayal burned within his core, yet visual evidence remained crucial. Landon's account wasn't adequate. He demanded unfiltered reality, eliminating any uncertainty. Starting his vehicle, he drove quietly to an isolated electronics retailer across the city. He chose the most anonymous location available, where identification was impossible. He requested help without explanation, simply declaring, "I require a small GPS monitoring device for an automobile, with instant smartphone tracking features." The employee displayed numerous options, and Miles chose the tiniest, most undetectable unit available. He paid cash, refused documentation, departing with a simple package hidden in his coat and a systematic strategy forming in his thoughts. That evening, Gabrielle emerged from their bathroom with a towel wrapping her hair, discussing a recently acquired beauty product. Miles pretended fascination, chuckled at her jokes, and sustained his act with rehearsed expertise. "I'm going to shower," she declared, vanishing down the corridor while he acknowledged with a subtle grin. At that instant, his pulse rate increased dramatically. Gripping the GPS unit, he walked toward their garage with determined yet quiet movements. The backup key, retained since their wedding, opened her car door. Evening's quiet felt mocking. Every small noise, from wooden fence creaking to handle turning, appeared to reverberate like shouting. He investigated the dashboard compartment, then the passenger side area. Initially considering placement beneath the seat, he finally selected a concealed location behind the central console, tucked between radio and climate control cables. The spot was tight, invisible, perfect. After finishing installation, corridor footsteps reached his awareness. He stopped entirely, blood becoming ice, heart pounding frantically. Briefly, he worried Gabrielle had completed bathing early and was approaching their garage. He remained absolutely still, muscles rigid as granite. Kitchen door sounds followed, or possibly wind, then muted water activation, indicating she might simply be obtaining refreshment. Miles felt convinced of nothing except his desperate need to complete this task and retreat. Breathing as silently as possible, he sealed the panel, eliminated fingerprints with his clothing, and carefully departed the vehicle, minimizing sound while securing the door. Each movement toward their home felt like a survival challenge. Finally entering the house, he heard Gabrielle calling, "Honey, have you seen my brush?" Miles forced himself to swallow, created a smile, and answered, "Maybe it's in the hall bathroom. You used it there last night, right?" She thanked him and, Relief flooded through him. That had been perilously close, he understood. From that evening onward, Miles's phone became his extended sight. The GPS software showed Gabrielle's car location continuously, as if he were invisibly sitting in her back seat, witnessing everything. The first 3 days revealed nothing questionable. Gabrielle drove to her office, returned late afternoon, cooked meals, and slept early, alone. No diversions, pauses, or apparent adultery. Her routine was expected, even boring. Miles started doubting everything. Maybe Landon had been wrong, maybe he'd watched another woman, or maybe Gabrielle sensed something wrong, noticed his surveillance behavior, his artificial manner. Maybe she was conducting an identical game. But the fourth evening brought transformation. Miles relaxed on their sofa, watching his phone display, when Gabrielle appeared wearing cosmetics and a blue outfit absent for months. "I'm joining friends tonight. Nothing fancy, just drinks to relax," she said, gathering her bag with an innocent expression. Miles showed fake surprise and casually responded, "Have fun." The instant she left, he waited exactly 3 minutes, took his keys, and pursued using alternate routes. He activated the dashboard monitor. Gabrielle's vehicle moved straight downtown, definitely toward the establishment Landon had mentioned. Miles parked 2 blocks distant, wore a hat for disguise, and maintained his remote observation. The avenue buzzed with energy, voices, melodies, blinking signs. He observed Gabrielle exit her car and enter the building alone. 30 minutes later, she appeared with company. The man appeared tall, wore leather clothing, moved with assurance. Miles's stomach twisted. He quietly followed them to the parking area, where they entered a dark automobile positioned in shadows. He remained unsure of what to expect, but continued observing. Then, the most heartbreaking scene of his life played out before his eyes. Gabrielle climbed into the rear seat. The man immediately followed. There, in the parking area's darkness, the car began moving, windows becoming foggy, shapes moving unmistakably. Miles became frozen. Time appeared stopped, the entire universe pausing to observe this horrible display. Fury erupted in his chest. Without thinking, he approached the vehicle, breathing intensely, and knocked on the back window. The forms inside stopped. The glass lowered gradually. Gabrielle's eyes expanded immediately upon seeing him, and before speech could happen, Miles started clapping with a harsh, mocking smile plastered on his features. "Outstanding show," he announced, like someone ending a disgusting theater performance. The man, shocked, opened the door and escaped. Gabrielle, in panic, pulled her clothing upward, trying to hide, but too late. Miles turned and walked away without additional words. The pain communicated everything. That vision would torment him forever. Gabrielle, half-dressed, completely revealed, scrambling for concealment while he applauded with his soul destroyed and heart obliterated. The man ran like vermin, never looking backward. Gabrielle stayed there, shaking, helpless, unable to speak a single word. Miles departed without hearing justifications or demanding explanations. He removed all doubt. This was pure reality. He saw her without masks, excuses, or guesswork, just truth, and it damaged him more profoundly than any horror. Gabrielle didn't come home that night. She remained in the car for almost 30 minutes, motionless like stone, her outfit wrinkled, face covered by her hands. She didn't sob loudly, but trembled like someone who had lost all foundation. Surrounding noises failed to register, as if existence had become silent to witness her destruction. When she finally activated the engine and left, her destination wasn't a friend's home or Damien's place, the same man who had just fled. She drove purposelessly for almost 2 hours, weeping softly, lost in delayed regret. She eventually slept in her vehicle, parked at a service station, her face stained by ruined makeup, her heart destroyed by guilt that had come too late. For the first time, she felt exactly what Miles would suffer in upcoming days: self-betrayal. She realized, truly realized, that Miles loved her, knew his faithfulness, that despite occasional weariness and quietness, he was the man who would always support her. Yet somewhere, she had selected the easiest path, the most cowardly choice. The next morning, she returned home. Miles had already gone. The bed stayed unused, his clothes had disappeared from the wardrobe, his toothbrush no longer filled the bathroom. Emptiness screamed from every space, an emptiness announcing, "I saw everything, and now it's over." She phoned once, twice, 7 times without answer, sent short messages, then long ones, then frantic ones. Silence. Miles had vanished, as if he had dissolved. But she understood this wasn't rage driving his disappearance. It was self-protection. He was trying to survive, and she had been the hurricane. She spent the complete day on their living room couch, knees drawn up, face buried in a cushion. She didn't consume food, ignored calls, simply reviewed every decision she could have made differently, considering how much she had destroyed by staying quiet, not requesting help, lacking bravery to say, "I feel empty. Please notice me again." When darkness fell, she knew. She knew he wouldn't come back, knew everything they had built had collapsed around them, and now only quietness remained. Quietness she herself had manufactured. Across town, he was signing papers that would make everything legal. No screaming, no battling, just agony and a final conclusion to a story neither had ever imagined creating. What Gabrielle didn't understand, or perhaps knew but chose to dismiss, was that this matrimonial disaster, now spreading like slow toxin, had started long before that night in the vehicle, long before the tavern kiss, even before her coffee with Damien. It had begun with someone she always considered innocent, her closest friend, Serena. Serena had the talent for perfect phrases, entertaining, loyal, spirited, the kind who makes you feel alive even during awful days. Gabrielle trusted her like a personal extension. They had exchanged confidences since university. But this time, Serena's advice contained something sinister, something Gabrielle would slowly realize had been the final nudge over the edge. It happened during a regular lunch at a small eatery, empty wine glasses scattered across their table, when Serena first raised the topic. Gabrielle had mentioned feeling isolated from Miles. No romantic touches, no passionate looks, discussions resembling business transactions, everything centered on expenses, correspondence, appointments, with no room for romance or even longing. Between drinks, Serena observed her with a crooked smile and asked, "Have you ever thought about reconnecting with Damien?" Gabrielle scowled, startled. "What? Why?" "Because he never abandoned you. We met recently, he's back in town. And guess what? The first thing he wondered was whether you were content." Gabrielle chuckled, trying to hide the unease those words created. Damien had always been skilled at generating chaos. Serena leaned closer, arms on the table, as if revealing forbidden mysteries. "He told me he longs for you, genuinely, that you're the only woman he's ever imagined marrying eventually." Those words echoed in Gabrielle's thoughts for days. She acknowledged her weakness, felt invisible within her own marriage, but also knew Damien was the kind of man who knew precisely where to attack. He always knew where to cause damage. And this time, he came with support from someone Gabrielle considered a spiritual sister. That's how it started. The first text, the first shared looks, the first coffee, the first error. But what she never discovered was what truly motivated this meeting. Several days after being caught by Miles and watching her own existence crumble, Gabrielle confronted Damien. She required answers, not just to understand her behavior, but to comprehend his real motivations. Was everything purely for entertainment, or was there another reason behind his seductive approach? She located Damien in a humble tavern, away from observing eyes. He appeared calmer, almost peaceful, like someone who had already accepted his part in the narrative. When Gabrielle sat down, heavy quiet extended between them, until she finally shattered it with a simple inquiry, carrying all her uncertainties. "Why did you return now?" Damien didn't pause. Because Serena reached out to me. Gabrielle's eyes, enlarged, bewildered. What do you mean? Serena contacted me, claimed you were unhappy, feeling abandoned, that you missed me, that you still remembered me. She implied that maybe, if I appeared, you'd understand what you were sacrificing by staying in this dead marriage. Gabrielle held her breath briefly, bringing her hand to her lips, uncertain whether she was containing rage, shame, or surprise. She said that? Damien agreed. She claimed that fundamentally, you just needed encouragement, that what you and Miles had wasn't love anymore, just habit, and that I was the spirit still haunting you. She stayed quiet, eyes filling, Serena's treachery hurting nearly as much as her own. But why did you continue? You knew I was married, knew this could ruin everything. Damien placed his arms on the table, meeting her gaze with shocking honesty. Because I'm obsessed with you, always have been. What I did was terrible. I tried to win you by destroying your life. Serena was also my friend, Gabrielle. This whole situation is insane, and I participated knowing it was a setup. She shrank in her seat, pressing her lips closed. The humiliation was crushing now. The reality is, if you genuinely loved him, you wouldn't have done what you did, and if he was perfect for you, this never would have occurred. What existed between you two was just the skeleton of something beautiful. We simply hastened the conclusion. She shook her head in refusal, but internally she recognized truth in his statements, however painful to accept. What Gabriel still didn't know was that the biggest surprise, the one that would alter everything, was still approaching. In the days after this discussion with Damien, Gabriel felt like a deserted building after a hurricane. Every memory with Miles ached like stepping on shattered glass. Kitchen giggles, soothing hugs after challenging days, whispered dreams in darkness. All were debris now. She tried to progress, but remorse followed everywhere she went, like a phantom. And worse than Miles's absence was the absence of herself, because deep inside, she no longer knew who she was. That's why she demanded to see him one last time. Not to persuade him of anything, not to beg for his return, but because she needed to confront the person she had injured. She needed, perhaps, to ask for mercy while gazing into the eyes of the one she had destroyed. She called repeatedly, sent messages he dismissed, tried contact through relatives and shared friends, until one day she received something unexpected, a short message from an unrecognized number with just 3 words. Tomorrow we meet. Following afternoon, she arrived at the location he had specified, an old private cafe on a peaceful street. Miles was already there, wearing a plain shirt, with facial hair on his face and a grave expression, but he appeared stronger, more grounded, as if despite the suffering, he had discovered something solid beneath his feet. Gabrielle sat without initially talking. The quiet between them was dense. Then she took a deep breath. I'm not here to ask for anything. I know I destroyed something beyond repair. I just want you to understand that all of this has genuinely transformed me, and I apologize. Miles didn't answer immediately. He drank coffee and examined the cup, as if searching for solutions at the bottom. I've transformed too, Gabrielle. You forced me to evaluate myself, everything I overlooked. The reality is, we were lost for some time. You just decided to continue without telling me, and that was what wounded most. She nodded, tears already flowing down her cheeks. I'm not here requesting anything, Miles, not even forgiveness. I just needed to see you one final time and say thank you, because despite everything, you were the greatest thing that ever occurred to me. He gave a melancholy smile. You showed me what love is, but you also showed me what self-respect is, and today, I choose myself. She rose quietly. He did as well. For a moment, they regarded each other like strangers who had once been each other's complete universe. But when Gabrielle turned to depart, Someone unexpected entered at the cafe entrance. It was Serena. Time appeared to freeze momentarily. Miles didn't respond. He simply watched her with the composure of someone who had finally seen the entire picture. Gabrielle, stunned, stared at her friend. Serena approached, serious, without cosmetics, visibly anxious. When she stopped before them, she said something no one anticipated. "Miles, I came because there's something you must know, something not even Gabrielle knows. I planned all of this with Damien because I was obsessed with you." It was as if air had disappeared. I knew that if I pushed Gabrielle toward her former lover, there was a strong possibility she'd destroy everything. I exploited that, deceived her, controlled her, and when you discovered everything, I thought that maybe, after everything, collapsed, you'd notice me? Serena continued, shaking. Gabrielle staggered backward. "You... what?" Serena, weeping, looked at her friend. "I could never tolerate watching you two together. I always claimed it was innocent envy, but in reality, it was fixation." Miles inhaled deeply. Now he looked like someone who finally saw the complete design. Hideous, twisted, agonizing. "So that's it? I was just a trophy in a competition you designed?" Serena started crying, but he didn't wait longer. He turned and exited the cafe with confident steps, without glancing back. He left them there. Two women, two versions of the same injury, two histories that no longer concerned him. But one thing was definite. He left behind more than a destroyed marriage. He left behind the weight of trying to comprehend what made no sense, and in doing so, discovered something few people manage to find after so much agony: tranquility. Because sometimes, the greatest triumph is simply departing intact from a place where they attempted to shatter you entirely. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.